So have I loved you. Continue ye in my love. Greater love has no man than this, than a man lay down his life for his friends. Just for a few moments, I want to talk about the greatest love of all. The greatest love of all. Last night, the world received some shocking news concerning one of the world's greatest singers, Whitney Houston. All I can say is she got her roots right. She was raised in a Christian home. She received her training in the church. And before any of you in my presence or listening on the TV or the radio, before you start forming your own opinion, just remember, if it had not been for the Lord who was on my side. And see, there are those who will criticize who are in the same condemnation. We're talking about discipleship and the greatest love of all. And John 15:9 says, as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Continue ye in my love. I'm wondering what has happened to this continuation of love. For the God that we serve gave it to his Son. And then his Son gave it to us. Now, what are you doing with it? What are you doing with the love that God has given us? Too many of us have allowed the love to stop with us, and there's no continuation of his love. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Continue ye in my love. You got to pass it on to the next generation. Quintina, thank you for helping us today. For that which God has given our parents should pass down to the next generation. And then our scripture for our theme is found in John 13. John 13, 34 and 35. He says, a new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another. It's commanded that we love one another. What the church seems to be lacking today is the kind of love that comes from God. Something is wrong if you can only love your clique. Something is wrong if you just have your own little neighborhood of people that, as long as they're your little neighborhood, you can see nothing wrong because they're in your circle. But let something happen to some folk outside of your circle. Why do you put your blinders on? God says, I want you to love one another just like I loved you. God has loved us through our mess. How many know that God has loved you through your mess? How many know you got mess? How many know that you got rid of some of it, but you still got some residue? How many still got residue? But thank God that he loves me in spite of myself. And a new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you. And for that reason, some of you need to keep other people's names out of your mouth. Unless it's been filtered by love. Because if it is filtered by love, God will allow that what you speak will only build up and not destroy. God has been patient with most of us, because if he dealt with us according to our sin, how many know you probably wouldn't be here today? And for those of you who didn't raise your hand, let me raise it for you, because you wouldn't be here today if it had not been for the mercy and the grace of God. A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. And another thing, I want some of you to stop giving the world ammunition to fight against saints. What you talking about, Pastor? Your best friend don't know Jesus. Your best friend don't even love the church, and yet you keep feeding them everything about the church so that the enemy can use your best friend to tear down the church of the living God. We are not supposed to be tearing one another down. Matter of fact, it tells us we need to build one another up. And the world will know that ye are my disciples because you love one another. The greatest love of all comes from God. That's why my second point, I'll always love you. I don't care what you do. With the love of God that's in my life, causes me to love you in spite of your sin. How many of you have ever had to love somebody that you know was unlovable? Let me see your hand. Now take that same hand and do this. Right. Because you need to take stock of yourself. How many of you know that there are times that you are unlovable? Could you live with 10 people just like you? Look at you saying no. Now, if you couldn't live with somebody, how do you think somebody else going to live with you? It's by the grace of God that this house is still intact. It says, love one another as I have loved you. And people will know that you are my disciples, that you are my students, that you are my teachers, because of how you treat one another. I can only say this because of who God is in my life. I'll always love you. Because of the greatest love of all came from God. And you already know the verse. The greatest love comes out of St. John 3:16. Greatest love, the greatest gift that was ever given. Only through Jesus Christ. A new commandment I give. You love one another. And can you please highlight the word love? Because some of you have highlighted love and you put in like. Like won't work here. Only agape love works here. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, that you are my followers, that ye have love one to another. The greatest love of all, I'll always love you. Turn to Hebrews 10:24. Because this is the part of discipleship that I want to talk about today. Hebrews 10:24 and 25. Hebrews 10:24 and 25 says, and let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works, not forsaking the assembling of yourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as we see the day approaching. In this scripture, he says, let us consider one another, provoke unto love and to good works, not forsaking the assembling of yourselves together, to show that you are really a disciple of Christ. You strive to have perfect attendance when it comes to the things of God.